Hello, today I'm going to share with you how to cut an overbust asymmetric corset. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So here on my pattern paper, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to waist, and my top length. So you can add 5 inches to get your top length, or you can just measure any desired length for your top length. After that, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2. I have 7 inches. I'll mark, go down by 1 inch, and I'll go ahead to connect. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to place my ruler to my tape, to find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. This is also known as your armhole. So I'm just going to measure what I have on the shoulder just to make sure I have a straight line, and I will connect joining to the shoulder. So after I'm done connecting, I'm just going to measure what I have at that point. From that 7 inches, my chest line stopped to my bust point, and whatever I have, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to rule a straight line at that point. So next, I'm going to go ahead to divide what I have here into 2 by folding my tape. I'll mark, and I'll come out by ½ inch. So after doing this, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. Place your ruler connecting from that point down to the ½ inch you have at the armhole and down to the upper part of the shoulder. Now the next thing is to mark out your dart, and to mark out your dart is to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2, which gives me 3.5. so your nipple to nipple is the distance from one nipple point to the other. So I'll go ahead and mark that to the end of my pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler to rule a straight line. So after I'm done ruling out this line, next is to mark my dart intake. So I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides of my underbust and also at my waistline. So if you're a plus size, go ahead to use 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way to the lower part, and I'll also connect the other part of my dart this way. So the next step is to place your French curve, and I'll go ahead to connect, and also go ahead to place and connect at this point. So I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this so that it's going to be very visible for you to see. So after I'm done connecting this, you want to go ahead to extend or mark where your dress will start from. So I'll mark 2 inches from my chest line upwards, and I'll go ahead to connect. So if you have a bigger bust, you can consider using about 2.5 inches or so. So after this, I'll mark ½ inch dart intake at the upper part. So why I'm doing this is to avoid much gaping on my corset on top, to avoid it to being too curvy, so that by the time you're joining it, you won't have difficulties joining that part. So I'll go ahead and connect this way. So this is what I have, and next I'm going to go ahead to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 16.5. I'll mark it, measure this 1 inch dart, replace it, and add your sewing allowance. Whatever you have at the bust, please extend it down upwards to your chest line. At the underbust, I'll mark my underbust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add ½ inch for sewing allowance. So my underbust circumference is 28 inches. So for your waist, if you want to snatch it easily, you're going to just minus what you want to snatch. So my waist is 28. I want to snatch out 4 inches. That's 28 minus 4, you have 24. So 24 divided by 4, I have 6. I'll mark, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. At the hip or the top length, go ahead to mark your hip circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. So after this, I'm going to place my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to connect. So if you have any question regarding this tutorial, please leave your question at the comment section. So after I'm done cutting this out, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline it. So after you're done marking that out, you want to go ahead to start drawing out the neckline. So I'll go down by 0.25 inches because the neckline at that point is not too straight, and I'll connect it. So don't go any deeper. Now this side is also meeting at the other side, so you don't really need to blend it out. So whenever I'm making a dress that is probably a tube or a bustier, I normally go up by ½ inch from my chest line and I will reconnect. This is to make sure that my armhole is not so deep and too revealing. And after that, I'm going to go ahead to connect and draw out this way. So this is what I have at the upper part. So after I'm done doing that, I'm going to divide this into two just to create a style line. So when you're cutting a Victorian corset, it's either you add multiple darts to it or you add style lines to it. So I'm just going to go ahead to cut this way. This is like the easiest method so that you don't get confused with plenty darts on the dress. So now the next step is to go ahead to recreate the lower part. So now I'm going to place my tape and measure about 2 inches from the midpoint, and I'll be going up by 1.5 inches. So from that point, I'm going to connect it down to the lower part this way. So after I'm done doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to extend it upwards. So go ahead to blend in your darts so that one side will be meeting the other side of your pattern after you're done cutting out. So from that point, I'm going to go ahead to connect to the other side. So I'm just going to use a free hand for this. You can also use your pattern master or your French cuff to do this. So I measured about 1.5 inches and I connected it all the way down. So the distance I have from my waist to that first cuff, I'm going to mark it on this line, so which is about 3 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to connect all the way down to the other side of my top. So after I'm done connecting, this is what I have for this pattern, and I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline it to make it more visible for you to see. So I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and you can go ahead to subscribe to my main YouTube channel, which is Marky's Closet. There I also do drafting and sewing tutorials. So after cutting this, I'll go ahead to cut the other part of my pattern. So I'll just go ahead and make a little dot on top to indicate the part you'll be passing your strap through. So this is what I have after I'm done cutting, and the next step is at the side of this corset, I'm going to be going up by 1.5 inches. So the reason why I'm doing this is so that the side, by the time you lace it on the dress, it won't be too tight on the hip for the person wearing the dress. And also the back pattern is a little lower than the front pattern. So the front pattern will also start 1.5 inches above your top length. So here's the back pattern, and I'm gonna head to mark out all the basic measurement just like we did for the front, and I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 just like we did for the front. And after that, I'll go ahead to use my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing out a straight line. After drawing out the straight line, I'll be marking ½ inch that intake at this part. So I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to rule out a line connecting to the top of my pattern. So after I'm done connecting this, so I'll go ahead and also connect to the lower part of my pattern this way. So after I'm done connecting this is what I have for the dart intake, and I'll go ahead to use my marker to draw this out so that it's going to be very visible for you to see. So now after drawing out these darts, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to insert my body measurement. At the bust, you're going to mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and mark your sewing allowance. At the underbust, mark your underbust circumference divided by 4, measure the little dart intake there, replace it and add your sewing allowance. Now at the waistline, go ahead to use the waistline we used at the front. We actually snatched the waist, and after that replace your dart intake and go ahead to mark your sewing allowance. Now at the top length, mark your hip circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. Next, we are going to go ahead to place our ruler, and we're going to connect our pattern all the way from the bust down to the under bust, from the waist down to the hip point. So after I'm done connecting my pattern, so I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it more visible for you to see. So after that, I'm going to go ahead to come down by a ½ inch at this point, and I'll connect it down to my chest line this way. So after connecting that 1.5 inches we took out by the side of the corset at the front pattern, we're also going to go ahead to take it out at the back. So you can connect the back pattern this way, but it's best for your back pattern to be lower so that it will be easy for you to sit down and it will be more comfortable for you. So I'll just go ahead to cut that out, and now I'm going to mark 1.5 inches. So I'm creating the lacing bar area. You can use more than 1.5 inches, but I prefer using this so that my back won't be too open, and I'll just go ahead to rule a line at that point. After I'm done rolling out a line, I'll make a dot to indicate my lacing bar, and I'll label this. So you can leave your pattern as just 2 for the back, or you can go ahead and decide to cut it this way, making it 3 into 3 pattern. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out my pattern. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us in our next video. So after cutting out my back pattern, this is the final pattern that I have.